Good evening. Some introductions. My name is Paul Bailey. I'm the diocesan giving advisor at the Diocese of Manchester. And then if we get Sue and then Liam to introduce themselves, and then we'll start outlining the format for this evening's webinar.
Hi, I'm Sue Warren. I've probably met most of you. If not, I'm the diocesan Gift Aid advisor just for one more day. And then I'm handing over to Liam, my lovely new colleague.
Good evening, everybody. So yeah, as you've heard, I'm taking over from Sue as of Monday, probably officially. So if you have any problems, any queries, you know where to come. We'll be here to help you out. Okay.
Right. So I'm going to start off by doing a little bit of screen sharing. So I'm going to use a PowerPoint to give the basis of today's session. So let me do some screen sharing now, so that people can see what is going on. So this is a session designed for regular users of My Giving Online. So if you are a member of a church congregation representing a church within the diocese, and you are brand new to your role, or if you are coming to see what My Giving Online is like, and what the Gift Aid Lite scheme is like, probably best if you are a brand new person to contact us either later this week or next week, or if you're interested in your church joining the Gift Aid Lite scheme, probably better to have a separate session with us. Of course, if you want to stay, you'd be more than welcome to stay with us and to learn as we go along. But I just thought it'd be worthwhile just making that clear to everybody before we get underway. So the session today, we're going to have multiple slides outlining specific topics and specific activities in My Giving Online. I'll outline verbally why this is useful or important, and then we'll go on to explain how you do that in My Giving Online. That includes screen shares, using a test area that we've got in the software called Practice Parish, so that we can use that in our training sessions. It's a great place for people to go off and learn, have a play, make mistakes, learn from our user guides and the workbooks that we've got to do different activities. And at the end, please highlight anything that you'd like us to cover before the session has been completed. If you've got any questions as you go along, please use the chat function in the webinar to make type up any questions or queries that you may have. I'll stop at the end of each section to answer those. Sue will answer them directly if she can, using her computer. But if I need to demonstrate something, I'll do that before I move on to another section. So the first section we're going to look at is looking at user guides, new donor records, how you're going to set those up in My Giving Online, and how to do that properly so that you can avoid work further down the line when you are inputting your gifts. Because if you set up a donor record properly, some of the settings are brought through into the inputting gifts methods, so you don't have to choose them manually before you transfer the gifts to the donor's record. So please make sure that you are using the postcode lookup to set up addresses. There is also the opportunity, as you can see with the check existing surname, to see if there are any duplicates and avoid those. Donor references are really important, and I'll come on to those, and not to change those from the format that are in place for your church, apart from incrementally increasing them by one when you're setting up a new donor record. We're going to demonstrate how you can have GADS donor records, even if you've not got any address details for that person, and also how to set up a record and claim gift aid on UK taxpayers who will live overseas. Perhaps they work in the armed services, for example. So I'm going to come out and stop sharing, and I'm going to go into my giving online first of all. So let me just open up my browser. So I'm going to come into my giving online. As I say, we have our practice parish area. So I'm going to come into that first of all. And what we're going to do is going to go up into donors, view and edit donors, and then I'm going to click on the add new button. And in clicking up the add new button, we've got the details that were in the PowerPoint. So we are going to create a record for a Mr. Simon Shaw. Let me screen share again, because obviously it has stopped screen sharing. So there we go. Hopefully you can see it all now. So what I'll do is I'll just come back out again and come back into where I was right at the very start. So I was logging in as practice parish. I was coming in as donors and view and edit donors. And then I was clicking on add new. And I was starting to create a record for a Mr. Simon. Initials created straight away. Simon Shaw. I could then click to see if there's an existing record. I could come down and I'm going to use the office postcode. Not ideal, but great for anonymizing addresses and not sharing personal details in here. So I'm going to click on lookup, select the address for the Diocesan Board of Finance, and I'm going to come down and click on the last reference. The last reference in here normally would have your X reference, your HMRC reference at the start, and then sequential numbering at the end. But in this example, we've just got numeric numbers. I'm going to copy, right click and paste, and I'm then going to create the next number in the series, and then I'm going to click on save. And that then creates this record for Simon Shaw. Now, a lot of our existing users, especially those who were in the first couple of sessions that were led by data development when we first started training Gift Aid Secretaries and Treasurers, we didn't do full data audits at that stage, but subsequently we've done that on behalf of all of our churches before they started going live and using the system. So some of these areas like donor type are blank. So donor type, we recommend that you use regular, occasional or one-off. That's the most appropriate. Frequency of giving comes elsewhere. So I'm going to say that Simon is a new regular donor. We can record their contact details, phone numbers and email in here. But one of the areas that is missing in a lot of our earlier donor records is this section. Now, if you input donor default, so for example, how somebody normally gives, and you can see there are examples preset in the system. If this person gives via an envelope number, so we can give them an envelope, we can give them a purpose, charitable purpose, that can be general, or there are many other examples in here. And I'm going to add an envelope number for this donor. Now, just so that I don't create a duplicate, I'm going to put in that we've got 199 as the envelope number, and then that is saved. This person has returned a gift aid declaration, but I'm going to come back to this donor record a little bit later on to show how we're going to input the gift aid declarations as part of the later presentation. We can select the giving type, and this is where the frequency is. So this person is a weekly donor, and if we so wish, we could put the amount that they normally give and when they started giving from, which allows you to do some forecasting around pledges and things like that. But for the moment, I'm going to leave that blank, and I'm going to come back to that later. But the key bits are making sure that these elements are in your donor record. If this person was living overseas, if I go back in and go into edit the address, you can see that we do have options to be able to tick that the address is overseas. And as long as we're satisfied that this person is a UK taxpayer, even if they're living in Germany, for example, to continue that service personnel example that I mentioned earlier, then a valid gift aid declaration, even living overseas, will enable us to claim gift aid on those particular donations. So we cancel that out. Now, if this person wasn't a taxpayer, then we would leave the gift aid declaration blank. We wouldn't be ticking the claim tax default. And then as long as the envelope had cash in it, then we would be able to claim that via GADS. Now, we have come across some churches where their GADS donors, because they don't need those details for gift aid, haven't got home addresses for those particular donors. So there are ways in which you can do that. So, for example, if the church has got its own postal address, or for example, the vicarage has, then as a taxpayer donor, then a record needs to be created with an address, but that could be a holding address for the time being, like the vicarage. And then as and when you get that address further down the line, you can amend the address to the donor's address once you've got that information through. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly go back to make sure I've covered everything that I said I was going to do with regards to creating a new donor record, and I have done. But before I move on to the next slide, are there any questions from Sue or that have been posed via the chat, Sue?
No, Paul, but you had a slight faux pas with your speaking. Doing alternative addresses is only for non-taxpayers, not taxpayers.
That's what yeah, if it was a GADS donor, I said if it was a GADS donor, yeah. The key thing, if it's a GADS donor and you don't have an address, then we can do that. But if it is a taxpayer, obviously we need home address to link that so that HMRC can do that. The thing about creating donor records for GADS donors, non-taxpayer donors, is that it's still claimed anonymously. The GADS donations are obviously claimed anonymously at HMRC. So this information in the donor record doesn't go anywhere near HMRC. It's just the amount that somebody has donated is added to Open Plate and claimed as an anonymous overall total when it goes to HMRC for a given time period. So let me go back to my PowerPoint. The next bit I've covered in terms of you setting up your envelopes and envelope numbers, giving methods and types, etc. The thing is that if you do this, it automates the processes. But once you put Joe's envelope, if, for example, when you're inputting on a given week, somebody's decided to donate using a different donation method, for example, a non-taxpayer has put a check in their envelope, then you can change that. It's not set in stone. It doesn't mean you can't change things to reflect your giving on a weekly basis. Of course you can do. And there's lots of information on this in some Gift Aid Lite user guides, the GAL guides that are numbered at the bottom there. And if I go into the internet again, in the diocese website, under support for parishes, parish finance and digital giving, you'll find lots of useful information in here, including, when we come to the bottom, downloadable PDFs of the user guide that we've written to help people with using My Giving online. So back to PowerPoint, and then we're going to talk about how you're going to input your own gift aid declaration. So the declaration date, when you are inputting a brand new declaration, is the date that the form was signed, or if it's, you know, if you don't have signatures on it, the date that it was handed to you. The valid from date can be up to 4 years before the declaration date if your gift aid forms are properly worded in that way. And then the valid to section only needs to be completed if it's a one-off envelope, and then in that case all the dates would be exactly the same. In the example on the screen, the 17th of the 1st. And a reason for change has to be typed into the box as well. That's because we have an authorization verification system in place, so that we only verify the gift aid declarations so they become visible in the donor's record once Sue and Liam going forwards have seen an actual copy of the gift aid declaration or the one-off envelope to verify that it's a current declaration and it's being completed correctly, and then we'll verify it and it'll appear in the record. So if I demonstrate what that looks like in My Giving Online, I'm going to go back to the middle tab, declarations, defaults and pledges. I'm going to click on the request to change button, and then this is replace current declaration as if you were inputting a brand new declaration. Now, inputting the dates, as many of you will be aware, we can type in the date directly, or we can go in and we can go back in time, etc., in terms of doing that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the example from the PowerPoint screen, so 17th of the 1st, and I'm going to do that again and then go back to 2017 for 4 years. Valid to date is going to be left blank because this is a new ongoing declaration, and I'm going to type in so that Sue and Liam know this is a new donor attending our church, and I'm going to then click on save. It will then come up with this little message, which you'll just need to click on OK with. But this is basically reiterating what I've just said about the verification process. So this dates will only appear once we've received an active and a valid gift aid declaration. And I'm going to click on OK. It gives us a success message at the bottom, but no dates have been inputted. If I tried to put in the same dates again, it will say, no, you can't do that. The dates already exist. And in Sue and Liam's login details in My Giving Online, there will be an alarm bell appear, and it will say there's a new gift aid declaration ready to verify. The final thing that I would do for somebody who has a valid ongoing gift aid declaration is click the claim tax default button. I don't advise you to do that for users of one-off envelopes. Obviously, most definitely not for non-taxpayer donors, only for those people who have got valid and ongoing gift aid declarations. So I'm going to come back out again and go on to the next slide, which is inputting historic gift aid declarations. So there are various different ways to input gift aid declarations. But this is if you were inputting, say, for example, we've got a donor who is using one-off gift aid envelopes when they attend church. This is a way to put in one-off gift aid declaration envelope dates as historic declarations over a period of time. If we do receive those, we verify each one individually, and then in the user rights that Sue and Liam have got, there is an archive button instead of the request to change button on the donor record, and each time we can then archive the old declarations into an archive declarations tab, so we have a full audit trail of previous declarations in the donor record. And I'm going to show you where that would be. That's in this declaration history section. There's nothing there. Sue and Liam would have a request to change. Instead of the request to change, they have the archive declaration, and they would archive them back to there. So if I was to click on the declaration tick box again, instead go on to add historic declaration. I'm going to say that we also had a donation, say they attended a Christmas service just for illustration purposes, and we had a one-off envelope on the 24th of December. And I'm going to go back and put that in for all 3 dates. And put in that it was a one-off donation received. And that would then come through to Sue and Liam for them to then verify once the one-off gift aid declaration envelope has arrived. If you say more, then they will go down here, as previously mentioned. And then the final bit of gift aid declaration status is what you would do if somebody says that they've moved house or they are no longer a taxpayer, what we would do to record that within the system. So if we start with the first example, the donor has moved house. We need to make a record of that. So say, for example, that Simon Shaw has moved house. I would just highlight that and take a copy of it. Go into contact history, which is like a little online notepad. So for any changes, you can make a note of what you have done. So I'm going to say that he changed address from, and then I'm going to put in the old address in here. I'm going to say that he's told me today that he's just moved house, and I'm going to click on save. So we've got, he's changed his address from there. I can then go in and I could choose a different postcode. So I'm going to choose an address close to where I live to change that. So that is then changed. I'm going to click on save. And of course, because he's changed address, you're going to need a brand new gift aid declaration from him with the new address. So you've got that as well. So what we would then do is, if we were in here and once it had been validated, the existing declaration had been validated, you'd have an extra option here, which was end declaration. And literally you would type in the date of the date that the house, he'd moved house, to end the declaration. You would put in a reason why and click on save. And then once you've received your new declaration, go through the process again in replace current declaration with the new details. And what that looks like is, if I click on that slide, you can see, if I make that just a little bit bigger, you can see we've got end declaration, current end declaration, end date, reason for change. That's what we'd need to do. So let me come out of my PowerPoint presentation. And I've covered that already during my earlier explanation of changing address. Clear audit trail of what you've done. That could be that somebody's, the date that somebody tells you they're no longer a taxpayer. It could be for something where you've sent them a new gift aid declaration or a new box of envelopes, whatever you would like to include as an ongoing record of what you've done for that person. It's a great place to store that sort of information. So any questions or queries, Sue, from that? That's good. Looks like one's just arrived, I think. So the next thing I'm going to look at is how to manage envelope numbers, because a lot of our users will have had the envelope numbers set up accurately when they first started using the system, but they may be unsure or need a reminder of how to do that on an ongoing basis. It's easy to change envelope numbers for people and to make the old envelope numbers inactive that are linked to an individual donor record. Don't delete them because we need the audit trail linked to specific donors. And the process is outlined in the Gift Aid Lite user guide number 15. For all of our new users, we made a decision some time ago to put all of the envelope numbers in as 3 digits. So 001 for envelope number 1, for example. This is because that when you are inputting gifts and you want to sort in envelope number order when you're inputting, having a consistent envelope number length makes that process far easier for you to do that. So a way to keep a record and have a printed record of your envelope numbers that are active is to print an envelope register, and that can be done in the software as well. So you don't have to keep an envelope book, an envelope register. My Giving Online can produce that, and you can save it or print it, and it instantly reflects any changes that you've made to your envelope number. So if we start off with that first of all, there are lots of reports down here, that's worthwhile having a play around with. You can't change anything by producing a report. It just reflects the records that you've got in place for your particular church. So, please have a play around. But if we come into reports, donors, and envelope numbers, then what we can do is produce an envelope number list for the people who've got envelope numbers in Practice Parish. We only want to see our active envelopes, and we can sort either by name order or envelope number order by clicking on these filters down the side here and there. And what I'm going to do now is we are going to show you how to produce that report. So if we scroll down to the bottom, we've got Generate Report. We click on that. You can produce it and download it as an Excel file or CSV or Word, landscape or portrait, particularly for PDF and Word. But what I'm going to do, just for ease of use throughout tonight's session, is click on PDF and click on Preview. And then opening up in a new tab, we then have our envelope numbers report, and we can see the envelope numbers. Normally, this would be far neater. It's a practice area, so it's not accurate. We're not going to go back in and manage this area like we would do a normal church. But you can see that we've got, by donor name, the envelope numbers that are in use here. Print that out and use it. And then if I come back into My Giving Online and come back up to the top here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back into donors and view and edit donors, back into my donor records. But this is a good opportunity to demonstrate that because it's web-based, we can come into different areas of the software, like the envelope number section here. If I right click and click on Open Link in New Tab, it opens up a brand new tab for me that I've got the two of them sitting alongside. So when I'm doing my envelope number audits for churches to get this right, this is how I do it. And this is the method that's demonstrated in the user guide. So envelope numbers here are all in envelope number order. And you can see this is a good demonstration of consistent envelope number length with 3 digits. So as we come down, we do have a number of donors all using envelope number 1 that have all been archived apart from Gareth Southgate here, who does have envelope number 1. I'm going to expand the list out to its full list, just so that I can scroll down and see if I can find a duplicate one. So yeah, we've got Ginny, let me come down and let's pretend that we're going to allocate envelope number 4 away from Harry Potter. He hasn't got envelope number 4 anymore. It's not attending church. So I can click in edit and I can make that envelope number inactive and click on save. And then what I can do is I could then, if I wanted to, allocate that envelope number to Simon Shaw. So if I can find Shaw, did I not save that in Simon Shaw? Let me go back and find him and see what we did in his record. So Simon Shaw, there we go, we didn't save. So that's another good demonstration that if I'm not saving things as I'm going along and putting in these fields and click on save, that is then saved. I'll make sure that I've got him down as a regular and click on save. And then when I come back into my envelope numbers area, just refresh that page so that we can come back in. We can find envelope number 199 that's linked to Simon Shaw. I can make that one inactive, so that's going to disappear. I could add envelope number 4, Harry Potter's old envelope number, and put that in here if I so wished. But it's a bit unwieldy because you've got to come in and do various bits and bobs. The easiest thing that I find is that if I wanted to allocate the envelope number for Simon Shaw, I'm just going to refresh his record by coming back into it. Click on there. Envelope number 199 is now deleted or made inactive. And I'm going to add in envelope number 4 for Simon Shaw. Click on save. And then that will then be allocated to his record. So for ease of use the website functionality of having 2 tabs, because if you're doing this for more than multiple donors, it's easier to swap in that way rather than going backwards and forwards through menu fields to find what you want. So where are we? We've done the envelope numbers. Before I move on to standing orders, Sue, any clarifications or additional information needed on envelope numbers?
No, we've pointed out that actually HMRC don't require new declarations for changes of address, which is correct, but sometimes people prefer to do so, which is also fine. And I think there was a question regarding reissuing envelope numbers. If somebody's died, I think you've covered that though.
Yeah, so if we were to go back in and we were to say that if we go back into Simon Shaw's record, for example, if we were to pretend, I know he's just joined the church, but for example, if he was to move away or die and we wanted to make his record inactive, what we would do is we'd come in here. If we got gift aid information and claim tax default ticked, we'd untick it. We'd come back into personal details. But before I untick the active box, what I would do is I'd go in here, add a new note to say that this person had died, the date of death or the date of notification when you found out that this person had died. And then if I was to untick the active box and save, in the process of making this donor inactive, because they died or moved away, their envelope number would then be automatically archived as well. It would be made inactive as part of the process to make the donor records, the donor's record inactive as well. So, is that okay? Can I move on? Yeah. So we've done envelope numbers and printing your envelope number register. I'm going to show you how to input and manage standing orders in the system. So if your church has got a decent number of standing orders. This is a great way to manage them and to minimize the amount of effort that you are going to need to put in to add these donations to a donor's record when they arrive in your bank account. So it needs some initial setup work. So either you can do this yourself, or if you want help and advice, we can do a Zoom meeting and show you how to do this. My Giving Online remembers what you've inputted, and there are two different methods to enable us to input and manage standing orders as part of the software. So the first one is doing it via the donor's record. Whichever way you use of these two methods, both of them replicate each other once you've completed and saved what you're doing. So you don't have to go in and do it twice. It's just that there are two alternate ways to do this. So I'm going to go into the donor's record, show you where the regular gifts tab is, and show you how to add the standing order, the start date, the date that normally arrives, which is the date that normally arrives in the bank, and the starting month, which is the month that this is going to commence. Frequency options could be weekly, monthly, quarterly, etc. And you can have standing orders as well for people who have envelope numbers. You can record both in the system. However, you may prefer to record in the donor's record as their default setting. You might want to save that as an envelope if they give an envelope each week that they come in, especially if they're doing a standing order on a perhaps monthly basis, because as I said, you can change that. It's not set in stone. You can change that to reflect the donation method used at that particular time. So we come into the donor's record. I'm going to stay in Simon Shaw's record just for ease. And as we come down to the donor's bottom of the donor's record, the regular gifts tab is there. So we're going to click on that. We're going to click on Add Regular Gift. Donor defaults are brought through as envelope, but Simon also has a standing order. So we can save this as a standing order. The start date, as I mentioned, the month is going to be the month that it starts giving, and the date is going to be the day that it normally arrives in your bank, once you know that. So if we click on that, he notified us that it was going to be on the 1st of February. We don't need to put in the end date because this is still a valid ongoing standing order. I'm going to put in that he normally donates £100. It's going to be claim tax because we've already got that gift aid declaration awaiting verification. And we can see the frequency there. I'm going to put in that it's monthly, and this is going to be his regular gift. As soon as I type in R, previous used entries appear, and I'm going to click on save. And then that is saved in here. So we've got that information. Additionally, it is also saved in the gifts section and manage regular gifts. So if I click on that, I'm going to show more entries than are currently visible. And then when I scroll down to Simon Shaw, we can see that the information is there. If I click on that row, it takes us to the top and repeats what we've just seen in the donor's record as part and parcel of doing that. If we were to add a standing order as part of the Manage Regular Gifts screen, we click on Add New, and similar way of doing it. The only real big difference that you need to be aware of is you need to choose your donor from the drop-down list. So you need to choose the correct donor from your list of people. So if we're to say that we got, who shall we choose? Adamant is going to be our new gift aid, our new standing order person, and we'd enter it in as we demonstrated for Simon Shaw earlier on. So if we go back to the PowerPoint, I've demonstrated method number 1 and also covered envelope number 2 whilst I was doing it in Manage Regular Gifts. So any questions on that before I move on to the rest of standing orders, Sue?
No, carry on, Paul.
Okay. So if you wanted to view all of your standing order donors and their details so that you can either store that electronically or print out a copy and save it in the vestry at church, you can produce a report. This has been added last year at our request. Data developers put this in. So if I go back into the records here and scroll back down to the list of our donors, there is generate regular gift report here. So if I was to click on that, select order by donor, get report, and I'm going to click on preview just for ease. It then gives us a list of all of our standing orders that we've got for our church if we wanted a report for that particular usage. So I'm going to come out of that and go back into here and just show you what you need to do in terms of making changes. So if somebody, for audit trail purposes, if someone tells you that they are going to be changing their donation amount, the frequency of their donation, or the date that the donation is going to be leaving their bank account, it is easier to end the current declaration so that you have got a record of what that was, and then add a new standing order entry that reflects the new donation date, the amount. It avoids any confusion within the system if you close one down and then you start another one. And the way that you would do that is if I go back in and if I was to click on Simon's record again, that's where I would do it. I would put an end date in to say that this was ending on a certain date. Say that Simon was, it changed from £100. So I'm going to say that actually he's decided to give more to church. I'm going to end it at the end of February and then click on save. And then what I can then do is I can go in and then add another new entry for Simon, find his record, put that this is going to be a standing order. It's still going to be monthly, but the amount instead he's decided to do £200, and that is going to kick in on the 1st of March. And then claim tax is his new regular gift. And then I'll be able to click on save and it's stored. And then when we come down to the bottom here, just for illustration, we've got the 2 entries for Simon. One has ended, one is still open. And if I then go back into his donor record and find Simon's record in here, come down to the bottom, regular gift, we can see we've got one that has ended and one that is still open-ended and is ongoing. So anything else on standing orders that people need me to clarify or go over? Are we all okay? Yeah?
No, nothing here.
Okay. So going to start having a look at the report section in this area. So as I mentioned earlier on, it's very safe for you to go in and produce reports. Whatever information comes out of the reports is a representation of what's already there. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't overwrite anything. The reports contain the information that you have already inputted. So there are a number of them that I am going to go over as part and parcel of doing this. The first thing is to demonstrate the ability of the reports, or some of the reports, of how you can check that the donations that you've inputted is accurate. Your inputting, marries up and reconciles back against what you've received in your church. It also is a good way to check to make sure that what you've inputted matches the version that you are going to email us as part of the claim report. So the claim report is going to be the first thing that I'm going to demonstrate how to produce, because we do have some people when they're ready to claim who are unsure on how to do it or send another report to us in error. So I'm going to demonstrate how that can be used. You might want to reconcile and check your totals against your own figures when we recommend that. And that could be paper records, it could be spreadsheet, it could be cash ledger books, whatever works for you. But we do have a template spreadsheet that we've created that we've been mentioning recently in our newsletters. And an example of that is on the screen that you can now download directly from the diocesan webpage. And where you would find that is back to where we were in terms of Gift Aid Lite and digital giving. When we come down, we have the online donations links here with a template reconciliation spreadsheet. So if I click on that, it's going to download the spreadsheet for me. I'll click on to open that up. And then I'll just drag across the spreadsheet across from my laptop screen across to the screen that I'm sharing so that you can see that. And this is a spreadsheet that Sue and I have worked on with donation dates for quarter or month. You can put service information if you wish, and then separate sections for gift aid, eligible donations, for GADs. There are formulas in here to total that up. So you can tick that off so it matches to your vestry sheet, and it brings a carry forward total at the bottom. And then you've got the other donations that you receive in church. So gift aid standing orders, non-gift aid standing orders that you would put in, any other sources of income, maybe donate now button information, or wall boxes is covered there, but other types of donations that would be received, put those in. Again, formulas built in. And then what we do is we have a subtotal for that column. Carried forward is brought forward to here. The non-claimable donations for gift aid and non-gift aid standing orders would appear here, and it would then give you a claim total at the bottom. So it's a simple way for us to keep a record of our donations, and by the time that you produce your claim report, that should match your claimable total at the bottom of this particular spreadsheet. Now, we're not saying to chuck the baby out with the bathwater. We know that there are some gift aid secretaries who are very good and they have big cash books and everything else. If it works for you, that's fine. We're not saying for you to move to an online system, but if you struggle with reconciliation and balancing back to what you've received in church, and you can't get accurate figures out of treasurers, something you can work with, or the information just isn't there, then this might be helpful for you to utilize. So I'm going to come back in to my giving. And the first thing I'm going to do is demonstrate in reports, if we come down to claims, we then have the opportunity to produce a claim report. And this is what you send to us with a single sheet Word document called a claim authority form, which you authorize us to claim with the end date of a claim period, whether that be month end or quarter end. And you come in and you click on claim report. You choose the date of the last donation to be included in your claim. If this was the last quarter, we come back to the 31st of December, for example, and that's what I'm going to do. Gift aid and GADS donations are included and ticked, and then click on preview, and then behind the scenes, this will then produce a preview, a PDF preview in a new tab. It'll take a little bit of time because we've never claimed for Practice Parish because it's fictional. So we've got donations dating back into previous time periods. So if you do have donations that have become claimable because you've captured somebody's gift aid declaration and you've not previously claimed them via GADS, then you do have the opportunity of bringing these forward and including them within a claim report. We can see that we have the name of the donor, we have the last gift date in that period that they made a donation, and the total amount that they gave within that particular time period. If we then come right down to the bottom, we can see that we then get the figures that we are wanting you to reconcile. So we can see at the bottom, we've got the gift aid donor total here. And here we've got a separate section for Gift Aid Small Donation Scheme. This has also got previous tax years that we can bring through. And these figures are not just your open plate donations, but also your non-taxpayer envelopes showing in these totals. And in the box at the bottom, you'll recognise this from your remittances that we send you after we've claimed. We can see that we've got the gift aid total amount of donations, GAD's total amount of donations, and the overall amount of giving. Those figures should match what you've received in church for those three different subtotals and final total. And it also gives you an estimate of what your gift aid and GAD's claim and what your overall claim would look like once it's repaid by HMRC. So it's important that you're checking those figures on that top line against your giving that you've received in church. Hence why that spreadsheet that I showed you earlier on to demonstrate that. If I come back out of this particular section, we can also do some reports to make sure if something is amiss, it doesn't represent what you've had as a total amount of donations in your church. We can do a couple of reports to find some of the potentially missing donations. One of which is called a donations excluded from claim report, which highlights any donations from donors that you've marked as being eligible for gift aid, but there isn't a valid gift aid declaration to enable those donations to be claimed as gift aid. And the audit trail report, that is really useful for a variety of different purposes, which I'll come on to demonstrate in a moment. But I'm going to start off with the donations excluded from claim report first of all. So we're back in reports, we're still in claims, and the top one there says donation excluded from claim. So I'm going to click on that. Church would ultimately be put in. This is the date range that you would put in. This could be your month, your quarter, or you could leave it as open-ended as the 4 years shown on here. When I do this for churches, when we're training them, I'll do this for 4 years, and sometimes it highlights some donations that are unclaimable at the moment, that if they could find the gift aid declaration would then become claimable. So it's a useful activity sometimes to leave it as open-ended as that. Step 2, I'm going to come in, I'm going to leave this as it is and not click on any of the options. And then step 3, to produce the report, I want these fields over there. So I'm going to click the double arrow to bring them over. I'm going to select by donor name, and then I'm going to click on generate report. And because we've not validated any gift aid declarations, one-off envelopes, changes that have been made, there will be lots of information in this PDF when I open it up. So you can see we've got 11 pages in here. This won't be like this for your church, but it's ordered by donor and date order with the amount showing and the reason why. So it could be that there's no declaration date, so it's invalid. It could be that the donation date is after the valid to date or before the valid from date. So once you've got this and you've printed it out or saved it, you could then have this record alongside you or have it as a separate tab and flick between this and your donor records to then go back in and make the changes. Maybe chase us up. You know, if we've not validated a declaration, something's not arrived via email or post, it could be an issue at our end that you might need to chase us from. It could be something that you might need to, you've forgotten to do a bit of inputting. But either way, we can normally resolve these issues with gift aid information as long as there is a valid declaration that we can utilise. So any questions on donations excluded from claim at the minute, Sue?
No, carry on.
Okay. So I'm going to come back in. Let me just get rid of a few of these tabs at the top here. I'm going to come in this time and I'm going to show you what we are looking like with the audit trail. Now, the audit trail report can produce everything that you've inputted. Gift aid, claimable, GADS claimable, non-claimable. It will produce everything that you've inputted. So, if, you know that is useful in itself. But specifically, in one of the steps to produce the report, there are 3 separate options for gift aid, GADS, and non-claimable. And depending on what you tick or untick, gives you really useful information. So if you were to leave just the non-claimable version ticked, all that the audit trail report would include are donations that are non-claimable. Now, those donations could be genuinely non-claimable. For example, you know, if it's a non-taxpayer donating using a cheque or standing order, genuinely non-claimable. But if you have been inputting donations and you've forgotten to tick the GADS eligible box, for example, for your open plate entries, it will highlight that that is something you can go back and check and rectify. So if we go and have a look at that, sorry, just one final thing, your year-end reports as well. Very useful for you year-end reports. If you're wanting to use this for thank you letters and other things, the year-end report, the audit trail is particularly useful for that too. So reports, this time under thank you letters and audit trails. So I'm going to click on that and just wait for the report to load. We have the ability here to choose a date range. So again, that could be a month, a quarter, could be a year, could be 4 years. I am going to leave that just for ease, the 4-year period. Details we could have in here in terms of showing that. For this purpose, we do want the details. But if we were looking at thank you letters, which will come on later, we probably want a summary of somebody's donations instead. So that's really useful. Step 2, I don't want my inactive donors being included in this. And then step 3 is where we've got these 3 options here. So I'm going to untick GADS and gift aid and just leave non-claimable for when I produce the report. Step 4, I'm going to select by donor name. I'm going to bring across all of the fields, but actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of a full breakdown of the address and move that back across because all I want, you know, is the donor's name, the reference, and the other information. I don't want the address information. If you want it, you can leave it in, but I'm just going to move it back across for now. And then I'm going to click on Generate Report. I'm going to click on Preview again. And then what that is going to highlight is the donations where potentially I could make amendments to make those donations claimable. So, you know, if Stuart, for example, is a non-taxpayer, the donations that he's made, as long as they're £30 or less, on a donation date and their cash or those envelopes contain cash, we could potentially make those into being GADS eligible. And then as we come down here, those anonymous entries there, those are your weekly open plate entries. So when somebody was inputting the anonymous entries for open plate, they probably just forgot to tick the GADS eligible box, and that's a simple quick fix, going back to view and edit anonymous donations, finding the service date, and then ticking the box so that those donations are then eligible. So let me come back out of that report and come back into my PowerPoint. Anything else any questions on that before I move on to?
No, that's fine.
Okay. So the next step is, we mentioned about the spreadsheet earlier on, but also, it's about accuracy of information that you are receiving, making sure you don't miss out on the income, it could be claiming refunds from HMRC incorrectly. If you're not accurate, you could be overclaiming. You could potentially be underclaiming as well for your particular church. So it's vitally important that these steps that we've just mentioned are completed each quarter before you send them to us. We do them anyway, and what we find sometimes can add monies to a claim. It can also say, no, we need to take monies away from a particular claim report until we've got clarifications and reassurance that inputting is accurate. So we do this, but what we'd like more of our users to be doing is to be doing that before they send the reports back to us to enable us to claim. Active and inactive donors, I think I mentioned earlier on, I think I've already covered that, where it's easy to do, to make, untick the active box and put a record in the contact, a little online notepad. However, if you want to make a donor record active again, say for example, somebody's going away to university, they come back and start living at home or start working in the area and start renting a house, buying a house, etc. You might want to make that donor record active again. And when you were doing that, this is when we come into the dashboard up here and we come into the profile. And in the profile, where we've got personal preferences, we have a tick box to say, I want to see inactive records. So I would tick that, click on save, and then when I do that, any inactive, gonaways, deceased donors would reappear in my list. Go in, make the change in the donor record that you so wished. So if I was to click on save, and then if I was to come back into view and edit donor records, there will be donors in here that will come in. There we go. Lucky first pick. Jane Appleton here. This record is inactive. If we said that we wanted to make this record active again, we tick the box and then click on save. And if we needed to, we could then make changes in here. If their giving preferences are different, you're issuing them with a new envelope number, all of that sort of stuff can be done before you come out and save the record. The key thing is then to go back into dashboard and profile up here and then untick include inactive records and then click on save again. Because what you'll find, if you leave that box ticked, it will get confusing and you won't know, which records you're choosing. Sometimes you might have multiple donor records for the same person because of historic things that have been done, and you'll be trying to work out which one's active or not. So that's the best policy really, is to do that before you start doing anything else. So I've demonstrated how you'd find your inactive donors and what you do. And then the next step is, I think one of the best things probably about the software that people don't touch on at the minute, and probably one of the most important things to do is to thank your donors for their generosity during a year. And the system allows you to do this, to produce a letter similar to this, to produce something with a digital logo in there, or you can produce it so that you can overprint onto a letterhead, if you've got a letterhead, or if you've recorded people's gift aid on their donor records, if you recorded their email addresses, there is a facility to email thank you letters out to people's email addresses as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate what that looks like. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up into admin and masters and thank you letters. And when I click on that, we have the option to click on add new. And if we click on add new, we can give it a title for our specific church or for a specific fundraising appeal, whatever you would you wish to do. This would be for example, for my church, and it could be the 2020 thank you letters that I'm producing. You would type in the information in here. So say, for example, the first paragraph or first and second paragraph of a letter. There is then a space to produce a table of a summary of the donations that a person has given, and it will also give a figure for the amount that has been claimed for gift aid if the person is a taxpayer. If they're not a taxpayer, it will just show the amount of donations that were donated during that time period. Finally, we might have a final sentence thanking them for their generosity, perhaps asking them to move to become a standing order donor or some other action that we'd like to ask them to take. And then at the bottom here, we've got the ability to choose our salutations, and we choose whatever we wanted, dear, first name if we wanted to, and bring that across to over here to be included within the report. The organisation, charity and branch, you can have a play around with these to see what you want or don't want produced on your thank you letter. If you do have a letterhead and you're overprinting, you can choose that. If you want to upload an image, a file, and this is included within one of the user guides on how to do this, so you can create an image that so it fits nicely onto the page and perhaps is left or right centered. You can upload that, and then the contact details for the church, treasurer, Gift Aid Secretary would be put in there, and you would save it. And in the best demonstration purposes of Blue Peter, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in and I'm going to choose one that I've set up previously for training purposes. So I'm going to go into the Gift Aid Lite example to demonstrate this. So we can see that I've given it a title. There's my couple of paragraphs at the start and my final paragraph. And then I've put my details in there at the bottom and a final salutation. And then I've not played around with this at the minute, but I have got a letterhead image built in to this particular letter. So if we say that we're going to say dear, and I'm going to choose title and last name in there, and I'm going to click on save at the bottom. And then when it comes to producing the thank you letters, we're going back into the reports and the thank you letter section and choosing the audit trails and thank you letters report. So I'm going to click on that. For this incident, I'm going to choose the beginning of last year, and I'm going to choose the end of 2020 for the gifts. And I'm going to say, just to demonstrate, I'm going to say I want a summary, but I want separate summaries for each purpose. So if people have donated to different charitable purposes, I can show that just to demonstrate what that would then look like. Step 2, I don't want my inactives. I don't want my aggregate donations. Step 3, I want all of my donations included. And then step 4, I'm going to choose my thank you letter. I'm going to choose the Gift Aid Lite example. And then I'm going to say, I want you to produce the thank you letter for me. And we can see that we've got all of our donors listed. We can click on preview. We can click on send mail if we want to. So we can either choose individual letters and send via mail if we so wished. Or in this example, I'm just going to click on preview to show you what that looks like. And we can see that we've got the St. Michael's, which is my own church, because I've got access to that logo. We've got the details for Mr. Adamson here and the date. It's brought through the paragraphs that I'd entered. And you can see there the summary table with how much has been donated to general purpose, but he also donated money separately to the Advent purpose as well. And it shows us the amounts that were donated. None of that has been claimed for gift aid. And then we've got a total amount of giving, and then we can sign that, or if we were posting it out, for example, or we could drop in other things so that we can then send that out to them, email, post, or print them out onto letterhead if we so wished in our printer, and get the letters ready to distribute. So I'm going to go back and see if there's anything else that I was going to cover. Nothing else on thank you letters. Is there any questions on? I can see pinging up in the corner of my screen some questions, but is there anything that people want me to re-go over?
Yes, somebody was asking about how you get the summary rather than a long list of donations. But I think you've covered that by clicking on the summary button.
So if I go back into here, first step.
The first step, yes.
If you click on the details, it will show every single donation that they've made during a year. The summary will just give an overall figure, regardless of purpose, but ticking that box as well gives you, as I just demonstrated, the totals per purpose.
Somebody else is wanting to know if the year relates to the financial year or the tax year.
I'll let you answer that, Sue, while I have a drink of water, if that's all right.
Okay, thank you. Yes, it's the financial year, because it's the taxpayers that need to check this against their amount of tax paid for that year. So it's definitely the tax year, not your calendar year.
Yeah.
Paul, could you please let Kim back in? I've had a message.
She should be able to get back in, I think. Let me.
Oh, she says she's in.
She's in. Right. Yeah. Fine. That's good. So yeah. As you can see, some of these things I'm doing for demonstration purposes and for ease. Other things, obviously, as Sue's just mentioned, there's the odd thing that might be done in here that you would need to do differently, as Sue's just pointed out, whilst I was having my my little drink of water to ease my my vocal cords. So let's go back in. What we're going to look at next is inputting GADS envelopes. This is particularly key for the current period that we're in with the pandemic. HMRC have introduced a temporary relaxation. We're waiting on written confirmation as to whether this might be something that might be happening on an ongoing basis. So we're just viewing this as a temporary relaxation for now. For GADS envelope donors. So we're all aware, you know, a non-taxpayer donor goes away on holiday, is ill, comes back into church with a few envelopes, puts them in the plate, and those envelopes, if it takes it above the £30 GADS limit, wouldn't be eligible to be claimed under GADS in normal circumstances. However, because of the pandemic, HMRC have said that these envelopes are now claimable. So you can claim GADS on behalf of the donors who place cash, still the £30 limit per envelope, you're on the numbered envelopes per week in their weekly envelope. But what we can do is, like my church, if I use mine as an example, we've not been open since just before Christmas. We've just made a decision to open in mid-March. There may well be non-taxpayer donors arriving in church for our first service mid-March with an envelope per week when church reopens. And as long as those envelopes have £30 or less within them, then we can still claim that for GADS, even if the overall total is above £30. So you need to be aware about the £30 envelope per week, but as long as that is in separate envelopes. But what we need to do is, and I'm going to demonstrate this on a donor record, is I'm going to find a non-taxpayer donor. I think if I remember rightly, Julie Andrews is a non-taxpayer donor from memory. Yes, she's not got a gift aid donation, no claim tax. So what we would do is we could come in here, click in to add a gift. We could say that on Sunday just gone, the 21st, that one of our donors arrived with a number of envelopes in. And I'm going to, just for ease, I'm going to say that this was, there was a £10 note in each of the envelopes, and it was over 10 weeks, just for ease. So we can put in a total amount of £100. We can enter the defaults. We still need to be double checking inside those envelopes that there was no checks. We could still make sure that it was cash inside the envelope. We tick that he was eligible for GADS. But the key thing in here that Sue and Liam will be after is a date range that the envelope's covered. So that's key, so that we know that this £100 donation represents multiple envelopes that were given during the pandemic. So that could be a date range of, let me see if I can work out, going back 10 weeks. So if we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm going to go from 21st of December. So we can do 21st, 1/2/2020 to, and it was the 21st on Sunday, wasn't it? He says to himself, 2021 envelopes. And we know that this is part of somebody's regular gift. So this is where I get the look from Sue as to whether I've done it right or not. So teacher, is everything all right with that entry? Because I've not done any of these during the pandemic because of us working in different parts of Greater Manchester, and we've not been in the office together. So is that what you'd expect, or would you like a little bit more?
Yeah, it's fine. I've just had pointed out to me you can also do the same in the comment box.
You can, either or, as long as we can see that. You can do it in either of them. So that could be the batch reference, could be the date. I normally tell people in that section, so I'm going to cut that out. I normally tell people in the batch reference to use the date that it's being recorded. So I put that in there.
That's the better way, Paul.
And then if we put that in there instead, we've got that information. But I agree with Sue, it's probably a better place to put it in the comment, but the key thing is that we need to see it. And we can find that, and as long as we can find that, we wouldn't then be coming, sending in emails or giving you a bell to say, please, can you just clarify the inputting for this person for this particular week, just to reassure ourselves. Yes, Sue?
Paul, I think it's worth stating that the programme has a temporary relaxation to allow these to go through, which will cease in April at the moment.
Yeah. So the data developments have relaxed things behind the scenes. So although you might put in, for example, a £50 donation from a single envelope or a cheque in there, cheques, you wouldn't be able to tick the eligible for GADS box. But if it was a £50 donation in a single envelope and you not put in the details in the batch reference or comment, we would be looking for this when we get the claim coming through, and we would be asking questions to make sure that that donation was actually eligible for GADS. So, any other questions on that, Sue, or can I move on? Okie doke. So, if we're moving on to some of the newer things that are on the way. So, first of all, donate now buttons. Data Developments has a number of different donate now buttons that can be added to your website or as a hyperlink within your Church Near You page. There are two different versions that could be used, and you might want to use one or the other, or potentially both, depending on your congregation. The first one I'm going to show is the one that's on the screen there, which is supported by the open banking system. Now, open banking is a way for vetted and approved organisations, financial services companies, not just banks or building societies, to facilitate the transfer of donations or payments between your own bank account and a church or charities bank account, for example. Open banking needs to be verified by somebody who has got online banking, either as a website signing or as a mobile banking app. So you've got that added bit of security and verification that you're authorising things coming from your bank account to donate to a church or charity. The second one is more applicable if your donors don't use open banking, haven't got access to online banking. You'll be using credit and debit cards, but also a PayPal ability in there as well. But because that goes through a traditional route of somebody to process the donations, the transaction fees are higher. So that is 1.9% plus 20p. The big benefit from both of these methods is that the donations are processed behind the scenes, and they are inputted directly in an automated basis, either against your existing donor records or new donor records will be set up as one-off donors, for example, so that you as Gift Aid Secretaries or Treasurers don't need to do the inputting. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into, let me come back up here, and I'm going to go into a demonstration site from Data Developments that we've got access to. This is a fictitious church in Wolverhampton. And we can see there that we've got a number of different buttons that do a variety of different things. The Braintree one is the one for credit and debit cards. So I'm going to click on that one first, and that is going to open up. Donor would put their details in. The second thing is they choose how they're donating. The purpose could be a fixed purpose or could be available for somebody to choose. They put their amount of donation that they're going to give. They also have the ability to tick the box, and whatever the percentage fee is, they could include that as part of the donation. So that isn't something that the church needs to pay. Can capture a digital gift aid declaration as part of the donation at the same time. And then the final step is for card number, expiry date, and the little security code, those 3 digits on the back of the card, and something for you to prove that you're not a robot before you go further forward. Once you've done that and the donation has been processed, it will be inputted automatically into My Giving Online. Gift aid is claimable on the donation amount. So if somebody donates £10, that's what would be claimed. But obviously, the amount that would be received in your bank would be the donation amount minus the transaction fee. So you're still getting full value for the gift aid if the digital gift aid declaration has been completed. So if I then go back into the first screen and go back into direct bank transfer as the example, this is where similar sort of thing at the start. And then the second bit here, it's set for single donations. I'm going to come on to monthly donations next. We choose our amount, I'll choose another one. We can tick to add in the 30p fee and gift aid at the same time. And then what we do is we then go on to continue, and it would then link behind the scenes to your online banking website or your online banking app for you to then authorize that donation could be made. So those are the two options for the donate now button through data developments. If I go back to my slides at the bottom here and talk about the regular giving initiative. So this is something that we talked about in a recent newsletter. This is regular giving initiative is regular giving using the open banking system. So again, you would need access to online banking website or an online banking app to authorize these donations at the start. They're very similar to standing orders. You know, in fact, there's no real discernible difference. Your standing order would be set up at your bank, so you're in control. And then when the standing order date comes around, the donation would then be sent directly to the church bank account in exactly the same way as an ordinary standing order. The key thing about this method is that it allows the PCC to set an optional annual increase on the anniversary of the first gift. So it allows your church's giving to keep pace with inflationary pressures on an annual basis. It perhaps reduces the need to run an annual giving campaign, for example, because you're asking your regular standing order donors if they would be willing to increase their gift, their monthly gifts by an amount set by the PCC. And again, as mentioned before, automated imports into My Giving Online for that to happen. So the key thing about this is the very low transaction fees. It isn't a percentage. It's 2p per donation, monthly donation initially. And if the donor does decide to increase their giving by a monthly amount, by a small percentage to increase their monthly donation on the anniversary of their first gift, the fees would increase to 6p per month. There would be a small increase up to that level. If we click on here and click on monthly, it changes. So we can either set this as options for your church that you want to recommend, or we can see in here that if we click on that, we can actually say that we would want to, for example, to donate £50. If you're willing to think about the optional increase, you could indicate that straight away. That isn't a presumption that that's going to happen 12 months down the line. The donor will still be asked if they want that to happen. A start date for the giving to begin. You can see that we've got the option of being able to include the transaction fee and also to include the digital gift aid declaration at the same time. And again, that would be recorded in the donor's record if there isn't one there already. So a great way to have monthly donations, but with the added facility of encouraging your donor records to your donors to increase their giving on the 12th month anniversary of their first gift. So if I come back into my PowerPoint, before I move on, any questions on that particular topic?
No, but I don't know if it was my internet or for everybody, but you were sounding very strange then. My internet, was it?
No, I think it was mine. I had a message saying that my internet was unstable. So
you were very alien, Paul, for a second.
It's what I do at a weekend,
Yes,
Leah.
can you repeat the last bit, please?
Of course I can. So if I go back into that particular section in here, we can see that if I go back in and start again in terms of I've chosen monthly, I've got the option of choosing a preset amount or inputting my own amount in here. I can say, do I want to indicate that I'm open to the annual increase, or you could do that at the end of on the anniversary of your first gift. Start date would be the start date when you wanted this to begin. You can increase, so you could include the transaction fees, like the 2p per month, as part of your donation. So that would be added in, so it's not a cost to the church. Digital gift aid declaration down here. And then you would then link that, authorize that from your online banking app or your online banking website, so that that is authorized and approved by you. And then that would then start to then, from the start date onwards, be transferred from your bank account to the church's bank account. So essentially no real difference from traditional standing orders, but the key difference is the optional annual increase. That's the key element that is the benefit of this particular donation method. So any questions, Sue?
No, you can carry on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So apologies for sounding like a Dalek or something similar. The joys of using the internet at home. So let's come back into our PowerPoint. Some useful reminders for people. We do have two areas of the software: Quick Add Donor and Gift, and if you're inputting donations by name, envelope or reference, where you save entries, and you have to remember to transfer those entries to either create a donor record with Quick Add or add the donations to existing donor records with donations by name, envelope or reference. So please make sure that you transfer them across once you've finished. If they don't get transferred, they won't appear in the donor's records. So when you log on and you come in the following week and they're still there, that means you've not transferred them. But what I would do is, before you transfer them, is just make sure that you've not inputted them previously. Check that previous Sunday's entry, just so you're not doing any duplication of inputting before you transfer the donations across. So please make sure that we have to chase people up before we can delete the records out of these areas, or to make sure that they're transferred across on a regular basis. So if you could help us to do that, we would be really grateful. Sending emails via My Giving Online. That is something else that we can do as part of the system. in terms of what we can do. So in terms of doing that, what we are going to do is I'm going to click onto this slide, and I'm going to show you how you can send emails out from the system. So using My Giving Online, a little bit like a mini membership software, if you will. The key thing is you'll need email addresses for the donor records, and you'll also need to put your email address in the profile section of the dashboard, so that it has something to send from. And once you've done that, you can then send individual emails, you can send group emails, you can do the thank you letters that I mentioned earlier on. So if we come back into My Giving, come back up to the top here and into the dashboard and the profile, there is a section here, a tab for your email account. So you put your email address in, your display name, and then the details of how you would access your particular email account. This will be something that might be done automatically for the mobile phone app that you're using for emails or in your computer. So with a little bit of digging, you'll be able to find this information, to put this in, and to put your account password in this particular section. And once you've done that, to make sure that that works, you can send a test email, and that will send an email to yourself to make sure that that's working. If it doesn't work, it will tell you that it's not worked and you might need to do a bit of fiddling. If it's still not working after you've had a couple of goes, give us a bell, drop us an email, and what we can do is we can provide some help and support so that you can do that, to have that facility available to you. And then if I then go into the donor records, I'll just show you again where you can store in that section the email address for an individual. And once you've done both, you can either click on that button there to send an email to this individual person, and it's as simple as that for individual emails. Or if we come back up into the donor setting, we've also got the ability to send email from here. The details would appear once we have got our email address details entered, but from memory, what that would allow you to do is to send multiple emails, like group emails, out to members of your congregation directly from there as well. But worthwhile mentioning the ability for you to do that, to contact people via email directly from My Giving Online. So let me go back into this section. Data protection using the system. I think we're all aware about the need to keep records for 6 years plus the current year. And My Giving Online automatically keeps your records up to date. The system is set so that the electronic records, once they've gone past this time period, that it will delete the records, so that we keep My Giving Online in line with the systems for GDPR and for data protection. However, we can't do that automatically for your own paper records, your church records. So just as we need to do that on your behalf for the records that we keep at Church House, you will also need to do that as part of your regular housekeeping for the records you keep at church, perhaps securely stored in the vestry. So just thought it'd be worthwhile mentioning that, so that you know a reminder of what you need to do. Don't need to do it in My Giving, but paper records or any other digital records that you keep securely on a computer or church laptop, make sure that you keep an eye on that for us. And then we're in the home straight. As you can see, we're getting down to the last 2 or 3 slides. It's worthwhile mentioning to you that, as well as some of the things that we're doing, like these webinars ourselves, And we've got another one next week on easy fundraising. We've got some others coming around grant searching and applying for external grants and external funding. Data Development is also providing free training at the moment. They are providing webinars that can be registered for on their website. So you can attend via Zoom and benefit for some of their training. Just be aware that some of the things that they will be talking about, we don't do as part of what we do as an HMRC agent acting on your behalf. So some of the things might not look right, they might look different. And if so, just make sure you get clarification from us first of all. It's also worth mentioning, we've got an increasing number of churches who've contacted us to say they're looking for software to manage their accounts on an ongoing basis. And there are software discounts via Data Developments that you can access, because as a Gift Aid Lite member, you are also viewed by Data Developments as an individual user of My Giving Online. So my fund accounting can be used, instead of the £15 per month fee, they're reducing that down to £10 per month from memory, because of your Gift Aid Lite members. And also worthwhile mentioning that there's an online version of a membership software system that is going to be launched later this spring into the early summer. So, just to mention that whilst I'm talking about Data Developments. But their website, if I just go back into My Giving Online, at the bottom here, you have hyperlinks that take you to the Data Developments website, and then you can navigate and have a look around. So you don't need to go out and search for them. Bottom of your My Giving Online system, when you're logged in, there are links there that you can click on to gain access to the Data Developments website. Any questions before I move on to the next thing, Sue?
Yes, I think it's worth saying where you can email your claims to our new Gift Aid email address.
Sorry, just clarify that, sorry.
Where claims should come in, you were talking about emails. They can't email that via the programme to us, has to be via our email address.
It does. So the reports that we were showing you up here, like the claim report, you can download that to your computer, and then what you would need to do is you would add that as a file to an email to us. If you so wished, you could print it and post it if that's easier. But the key thing is the claim report and the claim authority form. If you don't have a Word version of the claim authority form, which is a single sheet, let us know and we can email that to you either later this week or next week, depending on when your email arrives. But yeah, that's the report with the Word document, the claim authority form that you'd need to send to us so that you're authorising us to make the claim. That for that bit? Yep. So if we then come down onto home straight, there are a whole host of things that I think would be useful for you to be aware of if you're not already. So if I come into my website up here, and I'm going to come out of My Giving, and I'm going to go back into the diocese webpage. There are lots of different things to explore, but as I mentioned earlier on, particularly those sections here that you could look at, but please have a explore around our brand new website to have a look at that. In here, as we come down, there are also lots of other things. So we've got our own social media sites. We're on, have our own YouTube channel. So our YouTube channel has got a wide variety of different videos and guides that are going to be increasing over the next few weeks and months. I'm just about to make live probably tomorrow because it took a while to upload the file today. Saturday's introduction video to My Giving Online. That is virtually ready to go now. So yeah, so that one's ready from Saturday. So I'll make that public tomorrow. And today's session tomorrow again will be uploaded, and again we'll circulate so you can watch this at a later date if you wish. The other things that are really useful is if we come, let me just make it easier for myself and get rid of some of these tabs across the top. There are lots of other things that are really useful that I've closed one that I shouldn't have done. So I've come back into the diocese webpage, come back into support for parish and that digital giving section again, scroll down. We also have a couple of Facebook groups. Well, one is a general digital support group, but we also have one that's a private Facebook group to ask giving, fundraising and finance questions. There are other hyperlinks here for easy fundraising, which we'll be covering in greater detail at the webinar next Tuesday evening, and guidance on how to set up easy fundraising accounts, links to data development and that template reconciliation sheet. Parish resources. If you're not familiar with parish resources, there is a lot of really useful information in there that you can access, but just be aware, if I just click on to open that in a new tab, just so you can click onto parish resources, we've got a lot of useful information about managing your church, your PCC, information for treasurers and on giving and all sorts of other categories. It is also just worthwhile noting that there is a brand new National Church website on giving on the main churchofengland.org website called Building a Generous Church. And some of the things from parish resources are already starting to move across to here. So the direction of travel, I think, is going to be more and more is going to be accessed here, connected to giving, and probably less on the parish resources website. But lots of things in here. Plus, if I just click on the webinar section, National Church webinars that you can book yourself into as well. And then the other thing that I just want to mention is for parish buying, if you or your church doesn't have a parish buying account, well worth doing it because of the ability for lots of different procurement categories covered in parish buying. And if you go via parish buying, it's a good way to test whether a local supplier is giving you good value in terms of what you're doing. But particularly for giving and some of the giving equipment for contactless chip and pin devices, etc. So for example, the SumUp device, which is the really cheap entry point in for contactless and chip and pin donations, if you go via this page and go to visit SumUp from parish buying, you will pay less for the purchase price for your SumUp device, and also your transaction fees will be less than if you went to SumUp directly. And then this app that works with SumUp to make it easier to donate, again, if you go via this solution and get a link to download the pro version of the app from your email address, that allows you to have access to the pro version of the website, so you can change your colour scheme, add a photo, but importantly have the ability, once you've made said that you want to make a donation of a certain amount, you can capture a digital gift aid declaration free. If you went to go and use Give a Little directly, you'd have to pay to use the pro version of the app. So there's some really good benefits of having a look down here, seeing what you can find, as well as the user guides, some really good stuff in these particular sections that I think I've mentioned all of them, nearly all of them, in terms of the ones that are on here. The giving programs is covered within parish resources. So if you're looking for template resources to set up an annual giving program at your church, There are examples for larger churches and smaller churches in there, so well worth having a look there. And then the other one that I'm going to click on is the ACAT site. Just going back into giving, you can see that we've got down there giving programs, annual reviews, and Giving for Life. They're the ones that I was mentioning. And as a diocese, we have a corporate registration with ACAT, which means that you can log in, set up a login for your own church and access the information from ACAT as though you were a paid up member, using a password and username that we would provide to you. That was sent out by our finance colleagues as part of an email distribution earlier on this year. But if you've not received that for one reason or another, again, please email us and we'll share that information with you so you can access the ACAT website. And then we're on home straight. Mentioned the Easy Fundraising webinar. That's next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. The login details where you can register in a similar way to today is available on the diocesan webpage under the events section. It's on our Gift Aid Lite Facebook page. It was in the Gift Aid Lite newsletter and the diocese e-news newsletter as well that was sent out last Wednesday or Thursday. So if you want to come along, then please sign up, and I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. But that's about it in terms of what I was planning to cover, unless there's anything that people are unsure about. If there's something that you'd like me to go over in the software that you're unsure about, you want some additional help and guidance, more than happy to do that now before we end the webinar. So please use the chat function to send those messages in. If not, then we'll start the goodbye process from all of us.
No questions at the moment, just thank yous.
Oh, lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, final thing is, you'd be remiss of me not to thank Sue. I think this will be, for some of you, the last time you'll see her as diocesan gift aid advisor. Let me stop sharing so I can make her a little bit bigger and embarrass her a little bit more. Thanks very much to Sue. It's a final day tomorrow, so we've got a meeting in the morning, but the afternoon is we're going to be able to say goodbye via Zoom tomorrow afternoon. With, I'm sure there'll be a variety of different people from inside and outside Church House and Bishop's Court there, wanting to wish Sue wish her well for her much-deserved retirement. So, I want to do that before we finish. But thanks very much to everybody for coming tonight. It's strange not being able to see you. I said this on Saturday. It's the thing that is part of webinars in Zoom that we can't see you because it's a webinar, not a meeting. But I think by the looks of what Sue's been saying, referring the questions on, we've been able to do that tonight and, answer the questions and queries and clarifications that you've needed as I've been waffling on doing my demonstration. So thank you very much, everybody. Please get in touch if you need any help or support on an ongoing basis next week or the weeks ahead. But with that, I think we'll all say good night and we shall see you soon.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.